the number one citizen of the land is from your place. And the Constitution enjoins him to have regional balance. That's important. And he's also made a commitment. I'm talking of the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He's made a commitment to the Ghanaian people that he's not going to appoint more than 60 ministers. And so his hands are tied. Okay? And you know, fortunately or unfortunately, he's gotten an overwhelming majority in Parliament. Okay? And the Constitution enjoins him to have more than half, you get it, from Parliament as ministers of state. And so if he doesn't balance the thing well, it's going to be difficult. He coming from Bolly Bamboy, and the way he's constricted in his choice, we want him to pick somebody again, a minister again from Bolly Bamboy. Then how is he going to make up for, you know, the other places? We plead with the youth of Bolly Bamboy. Yes, their MP may be one of the experienced MPs and co, but it doesn't automatically. He could have even been a John Jinapo. He could have been a John Jinapo. If John Jinapo were coming from Bolly Bamboy, he would have missed out. He would have missed out because of these considerations. You get it? John is from Savannah. But if John, we all know the contributions of John in Parliament and in the national discourse. If John were a Bolly Bamboy citizen, John would have missed out in ministerial appointment. So,
although he comes from the same region.
No. Although, what I'm saying is that although he's qualified to be a minister, cabinet minister, but if he were unfortunate to have been from the hometown of the president, he would have missed out. Do you get it? That is the nature of the difficulty of the president in choosing his ministers. So his own people should be the first to understand and appreciate the challenges facing the president. You get it? And so the youth, we need to appeal to them that it's improper. Because the Constitution says, and I was happy when you started by giving us the regional balance, okay? Although most of the other saying two are the regional ministers, but they are part of the ministerial appointment. So the youth of Bolly Bamboy, it was needless burning ties, even in front of the president's house. You get it? They should stop that. The elders in the area, the regional chairman of the NDC, and the minister, the member of parliament should speak to them.
But it happened also in Ho.
The whole, I don't understand why it should be so, because I think the Volta region has some key. Kwame Abuja, roads minister. It's a top cabinet minister. You get it? It's Adaklu is not far from Ho. It's the same enclave. You get it? Adaklu is not far from Ho. So it's the same enclave. You know, yeah, they have some of the one of the finest members of parliament in Emmanuel Bedra. You get it? Maybe they thought Emmanuel Bedra should have been considered for ministry, but it's not. And as you said before we came on air, you said, and you and a lawyer said something which is instructive, and they must factor in. There's the possibility of reshuffling. You get it? And so that will open the door for others to also come on board. So they should take that into consideration in making their judgment. It's early days yet. If you look at the environment, the Ghanaian ambience, you know, there's goodwill for the president. You get it? They shouldn't, and so I felt sad most times when I saw these misconducts by some of the youth. There's huge goodwill for the president. So let the president bask in that goodwill. And so far, the appointments he's made is been received so well by the majority of the Ghanaian people. So some of these things should be avoided,
and
especially
I think what we should be, concern ourselves more with is with the directive principles of state policy and to ensure that there's equity and equality in the developmental projects. You know, let me hear you say.
Fantastic point, Amasi. But let me take this opportunity to wish your lovely viewers a good morning. I'm always glad to meet my own friend AC, my former party colleague AC. I wish them all the best in their so-called reconstruction and rebuild. And dog, always a pleasure meeting you. I think it's a very good point you raised there, as in bringing up for discussion or bringing to our attention the directive principles of state policy. Because my personal view is, see, almost every 4 years, when the president has to make appointments, we see some of these things. People, what's called, demonstrating, burning ties and all. I think the question we need to ask ourselves is why? Why? As in, as in why? Because we've created a politics, essentially a very patronage-based politics, where unfortunately the citizens generally do not believe that they can benefit from this democracy we are having unless they have somebody in position of power. Then through this politics of patronage, then they can get. Now the reason why I'm saying that, you made a very good point with the directive principle of state policy, is one of the fundamental objectives of this democracy, is where the political agenda is to create a system where we actualize the aims and benefits of true democracy. You understand? And when we talk about democracy, and especially when we talk about the definition Abraham Lincoln gave us, democracy being power of the people, power by the people and for the people. My personal view, and as I've said this view a number of times, that in Ghana what we are practicing essentially is just a third of the democracy. Because just queuing to elect your leaders isn't only democracy. You understand? But true democracy also has to be power by the people. And that democracy must be to the benefit of the people. And the people must believe that it is to their benefit. Now, in the directive principle of state policy, one of the abiding principles there is to include the masses in how political decisions are made. And that calls for having a very strong decentralized system, because that's the only way you can get all of us included in decision making. And we always have local ministry, we always talk about decentralization, but you cannot have proper decentralization unless you have proper fiscal decentralization. And we have not been able to achieve that, what's called, as a people. I know during Nanado's time, arguments were made, advanced, about the need for us to vote for a DC, but that alone doesn't solve the issue of proper decentralization. You need proper fiscal decentralization. Then power, exactly. Now also, our democracy has failed generally to benefit the people, because also in the directive principles of state, especially the economic one, the economic bit of the state. See, the whole idea is, so the ministers that John Mahama is appointed, all the governments have appointed, their focus should be to create that right economic environment where my honest creativity, you understand, I can make honest economic gain from my creativity. We should be able to build a system that is based on the principles of meritocracy. Exactly. You understand? And so, unless we do that, then every 4 years, when what's called a president is elected, the people clearly not believing that the democracy that we are involved in will be for them, for their benefit, will always be clamoring for people they know directly, based on that idea of patronage, to be in position of power, because they believe that that's the only way they can benefit from. And for me, it portends great danger for our democracy if we do not deliberately look at this and nip it in the bud. So when His Excellency John Mahama is talking about the reset agenda, I think there must be a reset and a refocus towards us being the best place to achieve the objects of our democracy, of our constitution, as stated in the directive principles of state policy. Because it should always guide us. Because the chapter 6 starts by saying that in every decision that every citizen makes, in any decision that the MPs make, the president himself make, those decisions must be guided by the principles in the directive principles of state policy. So for me, I've been hugely impressed with the appointments of His Excellency. I must say, it's early days yet, so as we all can see, I'm tempted to say that I see an upgrade. But like I'm saying, it is early days yet. But I feel that all these appointments, the focus of the government should be, as in the reset agenda the president himself has been preaching, and as in the people of Ghana massively voted for, must be to refocus the energies of the country towards achieving the principles of state policy, because it is the duty of all of us. And I don't know why everybody wants to be in public life, because it's the duty of all Ghanaians, whether you find yourself in public life, whether you find yourself as a private citizen, to build this country. All of us have our roles, and so no politician or people who are non-politicians should walk around thinking that unless they have political, as in direct political power, because we have political power, unless they are in government, then there's no role for them to play. Also, the government, as in the president, based on how he handled his presidency in the last time, has shown that he does reshuffle. He does reshuffle. So,
but somebody doesn't do reshuffles?
Well, certainly the last we all know that when Nana Akufo-Addo became president, people were begging him to reshuffle. Clearly, when some of his ministers were struggling, you understand. The president didn't do any major reshuffle. So, and he's the only president I've known who does not reshuffle. He
later rewarded them. He actually awarded them.
Anyway, so that was when he himself had said that he's waiting for the next president to come and solve the economic problem. At that point, he had already given up. So they were for want of a better word, people at the point where the president himself had admitted that, listen, he had no clue as to how to solve the problems of this nation. Then he chose some people to did some allow, for want of a better word, reshuffle. But we've seen the presidency of John Mahama, what's called between 2012 and 20.
John chapter 1.
Yeah, John, exactly. And we know that he does reshuffle. So yes, for those of the NDC people who think that they have been overlooked, those of their supporters who think beyond we finding a way of nipping that feeling in the bud. Because some people have confidence that this democracy is for their benefit, and then they wouldn't be going onto the streets to demonstrate to get somebody, or a person they feel can help them to directly benefit from the government there. So, once again, I'll call on Ghanaians again. I mean, it's time for us to become, if there's a time for us to come together as one people, I think the time is now to support this government in their reset agenda for all of our benefits.
All right. Let me hear from Sammy. Sammy, the president took a very bold and audacious decision to limit his ministers to only 60. I mean, he's a very experienced politician, and he must have known the challenges that he was going to face with this decision. Especially, looking at where we're coming from, and I'd entreat my producers to kindly put on screen the number of ministerial appointments, especially for first term, for the presidents we've had since maybe 1992. Let's just see the numbers, because looking at where we're coming from, in Akufo-Addo's first term, let me start off actually from John Kufuor's first term. So from Kwame Nkrumah, actually, first term, he had 41 ministerial appointments. Dr. Kofi Abrefa-Buzia of the PP, 49. Dr. Hilary Man of the PNP, 54. Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings of the National Democratic Congress. That's when he had transitioned from a military leader to a democracy. 82 ministers. John Ajekun Kufuor of the NPP in 2000 started with 93 ministers. John Evans Atta-Mills in his first term, which was in 2009, started with 75 ministers. And then John Dramani Mahama, that's John chapter 1, in 2013, I think, started with 84 ministers. Then the almighty Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in 2017 appointed 110 ministers. That's the highest so far. 110. Wow. Then John chapter 2, we're seeing 25, 60 ministers. So that would look like the lowest since the Fourth Republic, actually, the lowest in our Fourth Republic. Interesting.
Yes.
John Mahama,
yes.
bold decision.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to my co-panelists and your good self. It is important that we note that the number of ministers really does not translate into your efficiency. You recall that in the first term of the Akufo-Addo regime, he appointed a minister of agric, appointed a minister of state in charge of agric, appointed a deputy minister in charge of perennial crops, a deputy minister in charge of horticulture, a deputy minister in charge of fisheries. What was the results? We saw high food inflation, we saw reduced production of cocoa, and what have you. So really, it doesn't matter. Now, we find ourselves in a situation where Ghana is going through very extreme economic difficulties. And so governments must show that they are in tune with the difficulties that the people face. You cannot run 110, 120 ministers at a time when you barely are able to service your debt. You understand the point I make it? So President Mahama made a promise to the people of Ghana that as experienced as he is, he will run the country with 60 ministers. And of course, it will bring difficulties. You recall that even under the MPP, they appointed railway minister and all that, aviation and all that. But the works they did could not even match up to the work President Mahama did. Because when you go to the railway sector, President Mahama did the biggest investment in that sector, the aviation sector. You know that and all that. And so it really doesn't matter. And so we agree with the difficulties that have
So I'm getting some facts from our viewers. Some are saying he actually appointed 123 in his first term and not 110.
President Akufo-Addo. Yeah, it was somewhere around 125.
No, he started with the 110.
But ended with about 124. That was huge.
No, but it came down. When you say ended,
that was the second term. That was
no, that was the first term.
No, the first term.
So first time it was
120.
120.
At once with 123.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because you're saying it's 123.
Yes.
That's what he started
yes.
with.
It went up to 120.
Because I know in the second term it came down.
Yes.
So that means he started with 123.
Oh, no.
About 125 also.
No,
You're adding 2 to it.
Yeah, you understand. So it is clearly untenable at this point in time. But looking at how experienced President Mahama is, I certainly believe that the country will do good under his leadership. You see, the burning around the country in Bole and other places. Bole, I am pleading with the people in Bole that now we have the ultimate, the first gentleman of the land is from Bole. You understand? So a lot of considerations came into play. You have former deputy ministers who have completely been leading the party's activities, communication. I mean, some of them are technocrats. Somebody like John Jenapo and a few others definitely must be put somewhere. The other considerations like regional balance, just like you have seen, President is doing about 2 to 3 averagely for every region. This has never, I don't think this level of even distribution has ever happened in this country. So I am pleading with them. I mean, we are in government now. The difficulty is that everybody contributed their quota in the success that we see today. So it is expected that people will wish that their leaders will be put somewhere. Just like my senior counsel rightfully said, this is a man who is always up to speed with whatever is going on anywhere in this country. He doesn't waste time in reshuffling people from one ministry to another to allow fresh energy to come on board. we have 4 years to go. If you have over 184 members of parliament, and you need to appoint 60, where the constitution has actually given a restriction as to the number of people you even get from parliament. This level of difficulty is highly expected. We are pleading with them that early days yet. We are only 14 days into government. We should hold on with us. President Mahama will do the needful to make sure that there's even distribution of, leadership roles that will inure to the benefit of this country. So I'm only pleading with them.